by bread alone. Yeah, this word got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome, you should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts, told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High, we gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope, fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat, looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah over Belial, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier, warfare getting nuclear, mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofied them. I'm checking every word, spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolatans, hate these graven idols, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Trying to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee them evil deeds or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't Groupon. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the Ultra Low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I ain't praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, trying to hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came out sour, but now we stand and giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface, choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is ready to bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance, while you living you can't but a searching. Gotta call on his name like it's urgent, never knowing that day is emerging. So repent at the weight of perversions, judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Yeah. House of bread. Feed the flock. No crumbs. Full plate.
Welcome to the house of bread. Where the hungry get fed. Living water overflowing, just like the prophet said. We don't fold, we don't bend. We stand on what was read. Built on stone, not the sand. Yeah, we break that bread. House of bread, yeah, the oil gets stirred. If you starving for the truth, come and get fed. House of bread, yeah, the spirit get lit. Ain't no famine over here, we fed. Yeah. Came from the dark, now we walk in the light. Armor on tight, yeah, we ready to fight. Word cut deep like a blade in the night. Truth so heavy, make the demons take flight. Line upon line, yeah, we build it precise. Sacrifice daily, we paying the price. No gimmicks, no hype, no rolling the dice. Just discipline, order, and living it right. We was lost in the mist, blind in the maze. Now we breaking them chains, setting the blaze. 12 on our mind, counting the days, standing firm through the pressure and haze. No milk in the cup, it's me for the strong. Correction hit hard, but it make you belong. From weak to a leader, it don't take long. When the bread is solid and the doctrine strong. Welcome to the house of bread, where the hungry get fed. Living water overflow, just like the prophet said. We don't fold, we don't bend. We stand on what was read. Built on stone, not the sand. Yeah, we break that bread. House of bread, yeah, the oil get spread. If you starving for the truth, come and get fed. House of bread, yeah, the spirit get lit. Ain't no famine over here, we fed. Out in the cold, still teaching bold. Precepts unfold, mysteries told. Not chasing the silver, not chasing the gold. We chasing the kingdom, the prophets foretold. Structure in place, you see it in stance. Sisters in modesty, brothers advance. Righteous example in every glance. Not by luck, this ain't by chance. Iron sharpen iron, spars gon' fly. Correct with love, never let pride rise. Tears in the night, but we still testify. From ashes we rose, now we unify. Feeding the youth, restoring the men. Building the nation again and again. Law in the heart, not just in the pen. House of bread to the very end. Break it, pass it, let it multiply. Open the blind eyes, watch them come alive. From the dust we rise, rise, no compromise. Spirit inside, we fortify. No famine here, we supply. Truth so pure, can't be denied. Stand on the rock, we solidify. House of bread, we unify. Storm hit hard, but we stayed intact. Enemy watching, plotting attack. Foundation solid, we never crack. Scriptures loaded, yeah, we react. Not here for fame, not here for views. Here to wake up to scatter juice. Cutting deception, exposing the news. Standing firm, we refuse to lose. Cam strong, unity tight. One body moving in power and might. Sword of the word, we swing it right. Turning the dark, straight in the light. From crumbs to lows, we multiply. From broken homes to sanctified. From dead inside to revived. House of bread, we alive. House of bread, the oil get spread. If you starving for the truth, come and get fed. House of bread, the spirit get lit. Ain't no famine over here, we fed. We alive. Yeah, love. Welcome to the house of bread, where the hungry get fed. Living water overflow, just like the prophet said. We don't fold, we don't bend. We stand on what was read. Built on stone, not the sand. Yeah, we break that bread. House of bread. Chokes so bread, be alive.
All right, Shalawam, Shalawam family. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawaah. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother Yasharahla, and I'm joined with the good brother Yasharahla. And as you can see, we're getting ready to dive into the topic of how to be a good husband. Right? Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. Pray brothers and sisters are doing well, brothers and sisters are safe, and ready to learn. Now, this is definitely something that is very needed right now, given the most recent events in the Israelite community, right? This is an important lesson for brothers, especially, but also is an important lesson for sisters as well, right? The things that we're going to lay out are things that sisters should be looking for, right? Looking out for as you're getting to a space where you're ready to start courting, right? Again, I'm talking about single sisters, right? But before we dive in real quick, just want to give a shout out to it's a brother by the name of Matawathya. He's the one who made that House of Bread song, right? Shout out, this is brother right here. Actually, I'm gonna share his channel real quick. Give me 1 second. Bro's nice with it. He also has another song that we're gonna play a little later today. That ties in with the topic. Let me go ahead and so yeah, this is Bro's page, Contend for the Faith here on YouTube. So tap in with Bro. I'm not signed in, but make sure you guys subscribe to the good brother. Definitely got some fire tracks, man. All praise to the Most High. But yeah, man, we're gonna dive into this again. Please share the video. Make sure you thumb up the video if you're new to the channel. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever we go live. All right. So let's dive right into it. Right. So we're gonna break this down into really about 5 steps. Right. Keys to being a good husband. Right. And we're talking about being a good husband biblically. Okay. See, a lot of us, most of our people, right? Most so-called blacks, I think about 80% of black people in America identify as Christian, right? Or Christian adjacent, essentially, right? So with that said, many of our people, they're familiar with the Bible, right? They read the Bible. Not all of our people actually follow the Bible, okay? So the step number 1 to be a good husband, right, is you must be a good man, right? A good man and a man of integrity, right? So let's start off real simple, right? And let's define. Actually, before we do that, I want to show you guys something, right? And the reason why I say in order for you to be a good husband, you have to be a good man is because when you look at the Hebrew word, the generic Hebrew word for man or husband, it's the same word, right? So we got this word right here, ayash, right? Or as some people will pronounce ish, right? If you take a look at it, right? It's translated as man 1,002 times, men 210 times, and then husband 69 times. So in the Hebraic concept, a woman's husband is her man, right? You know how sisters say, oh, my man, my man, my man. Like literally, that's what the word husband means. Man, right? Now you can be a man and not be married, right? Not have a wife. But literally the word husband and the word man is the same in the Hebrew language. Same thing with wife, right? You have Asha, wife, woman, same thing, right? So in order for you to be a good husband, you have to first and foremost be a good man, right? Let's go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 2 from the top.
This is 1 Kings. Am I clear?
Yep.
This is 1 Kings chapter 2 from the top. Hold on, I'm in NLT. Let me go to KJV. Right? This is King James Version. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man.
Show thyself a what?
A man.
All right, so now David is a father imparting wisdom to his son and giving his son instructions before he dies. And he's letting him know, show yourself to be a man. Well, how does one show themselves to be a man? Right? Read on.
Show thyself a man and keep the charge of Yahawah thy God. To walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments.
So let's slow this down, right? It says in all his ways. God's ways entail more than the do's and the don'ts, right? It entails also the judgments. Like for instance, according to the Torah, you're not supposed to steal from a fellow Israelite, right? You're not supposed to beguile another Israelite. What's the punishment for stealing? There's a judgment for it. You have to execute those judgments. That's what David is telling his son Solomon to do. Show yourself to be a man, walk in all of the Most High God's ways. Okay, keep his laws, his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, right? Read on.
His judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses. And
according to the law of Moses, if let's say I stole something from the brother Mayash, let's say I stole $100 from him, right? According to the Torah, according to the law, I would have to restore what I stole plus a fifth part, which is 20%. So if I stole $100, I got to pay him $120. That's the statute, right? That's the judgment, right? So that's part of being a man, is keeping all of this as is written in the law of Moses. Read on.
That thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. That Yahawah may continue his word, which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel.
So now we don't have a king, right? We as a people, right? We're in a time similar to the time of the judges, right? The scriptures talk about how in the time of the judges, there was no king in Israel and every man did what was right in his own eyes, right? We weren't walking in the law, right? And we saw what that got us. We went through captivity after captivity. Here we are, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans here in the Western Hemisphere, and the rest of our people scattered to the four corners of the earth. We are in captivity. We are subject to other people because we did not subject ourselves to the Most High God's law, statutes, and commandments, right? because we as the men, the leaders, right? Brothers always want to talk about 1 Corinthians 11, right? The head of the man, the head of the woman is the man, right? But when you really break down what Paul is addressing, right? And this is important as we look at the things that have happened in the community over the past week or so, right? You know, in the Hebrew Israelite community, there is a ton of fanboyism, and it is absolutely disgusting and deplorable, right? The level of fanboyism that happens in this community, right? And the thing is, a lot of the people that brothers and sisters of fanboys are, they're not doing what is outlined here in 1 Corinthians 11, right? It says, be ye followers of me. Paul's writing to the Corinthians, be ye followers of me. Follow me even as I also am of Christ. So if your leader is not following Christ, you should not be following that person, right? Jumping down to verse 3, it says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. Christ is my head. Christ is my Yasha's head, right? Christ is the head of every brother in the nation of Israel. He should be your head, right? And you should be following him. And if you have leaders over you on this, in this realm, on this earth, they should be following Christ, right? And it says the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So it's funny. Brothers a lot of times will say, oh, my wife is wicked, my wife is XYZ, blah, 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 blah. Well, we can get to it later, right? The scriptures tell us in the book of Sirach that a wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. I say it again. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. A good woman is not given to a wicked man. Or a woman, a decent or a good woman can be given to a wicked man, and that wicked man is going to fumble that. He's going to destroy that. He can tarnish that. You don't want to be that. In order to be a good man, you have to keep God's law, statutes, commandments. A wicked man does not keep God's law, statutes, commandments, right? And what's crazy is when you really dive into what sin is, right? The transgression of the law. That's one level. When you take the next step of iniquity, right, which means perverseness, which means to twist, there are people who are in the truth, right, who they keep some of the commandments, right? They keep the commandments to an extent, right? But what they'll do is they'll twist the scriptures to justify themselves, right? They'll pervert the scriptures to justify themselves, and that's iniquity, right? It's another level. Sin is a cut, right? A little scrape, a little boo-boo. Iniquity is when that cut gets infected and it starts to fester. That's what iniquity is, right? So when it comes to being a good man, you cannot be a worker of iniquity, right? Good men, a righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up again, right? That's what a righteous man does, right? That's what a good man does. In order to show yourself to be a man, right? In order for you to be a good husband, you have to be a good man. And that starts, and the foundation is keeping God's law, statutes, commandments. All right.
Right. And to add on that, just, if you think about it, right, a lot of us, majority of our lives, we've walked as wicked man and woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And brothers think that, they put, even if you put time in, that, somehow now you should, that good woman, you should get that, right? You think, oh, you put some time in, right? You've been walking in righteousness, that you're due to have a righteous woman, and that's just not the case. Just for the simple fact, for one, we're in captivity because, like you said, we're in sin, right? Our nations, this is why we're in captivity. So a lot of us, we've been living in wickedness, and again, it's for a majority of our life. So we have a lot to atone for our own lives, right? So there's at the end of the day, we're working off a negative tab, right? So the works we put in, we can't look at it like, oh, we're do this, we're do that because we put in time, right? I've done what I'm supposed to do, right? And this woman just won't get right because a lot of brothers will have that thought too, right? But at the end of the day, we're working off a negative tab as it is. So you gotta learn to endure whatever the Lord has given you.
A lot of it, again, to that point, you got a freaking past due balance, right? You in the hole, you in the negative. So listen, I could have a negative $1,000 in my account, and I can clock into work each and every day, right? Listen, until I work enough to get past that tab, to get out of the red and get into the black, as they say, right? You have to continue to put in the work, and you have to be patient, right, in doing so. Now, another thing that's important, right? Again, we're still in this first step of being a good man, right? You have to be a man of integrity, right? Integrity is one of the most important things in humanity, right? Now, integrity is the practice of being honest, adhering to strong moral principles, and consistently aligning your actions with your values. It is best defined as doing the right thing even when no one is watching, right? See, actually, let's get this real quick. Watch this, Jew. Right, Paul talks about this.
Yep.
Right? Romans chapter 2 and I'm sorry, verse 25 for just looking at the context, right? Romans 2 and 25, it says, "For circumcision verily profiteth if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision," right? So Paul is addressing the Church of Rome, right? About, again, the topic of circumcision, because you had Jews, right, mainly Pharisees, who were going to these different churches, right, and saying, unless you are circumcised, you can't get saved, and blah, 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 X, Y, Z, right? And Paul is not necessarily teaching against that, right? But he's trying to lay things out in a way where it's a balance. Listen, you can be circumcised all you want, but if you don't keep the law of God, your circumcision means nothing, right? Because when we look at the commandment to Abraham to circumcise, at the time, I believe he was Abram, right? He was told to circumcise himself and every male in his house, and he did it, right? When we read the book of James, it says that Abraham's faith was made perfect through his works, right? So going back to circumcision, yes, this is something that should be a thing, right? Brothers should be circumcised. But let's think about it like this. Put a 1 in the chat if you were circumcised on the 8th day. If you're a male, were you circumcised on the 8th day? I know I wasn't. Whose fault is that? Is it your fault that you weren't circumcised on the 8th day? No, it's your parents' fault. Your parents are responsible for circumcising you. So these brothers that Paul is writing to in these different churches, right, that are made up of Jews and Hellenized Gentile Israelites, right? It's not this brother's fault that he wasn't circumcised on the 8th day at all, right? And here you have brothers listen, I had both my parents in my life, and I understand the privileges that I'm afforded and that I've been afforded because I have both my parents in my life. I know brothers who didn't have both their parents in their life, but I know brothers who didn't have their fathers, and I know that their life was drastically different from mine based off of circumstances that they had no control over. Same thing applies to this situation, right? But anyway, it says, "Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not their uncircumcision be counted for circumcision? And shall not uncircumcision which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision doth transgress the law. For he is not a Jew which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. Now, this right here, when you really break it down and really just go slowly, this cuts the idea that Paul's writing to non-Israelites, because it says this person's uncircumcised, but he's a Jew inwardly. I digress, right? But again, going back to integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? It's about your heart, right? The scripture about how the Most High God tries the reins of our heart. He knows our hearts, right? He knows that the heart is desperately wicked, right? But he tries the reins of the heart, right? Yahawashi is going to give every man a reward according to his works, right? But that starts with your heart, right? Starts with your mind. So when it comes to integrity, you have to do the right thing even when no one is looking, right? Are you a super brew in the community, on Facebook, or at camp, on the line, bringing it out mighty in the spirit, and at home you're a goddamn demon? You are teaching all these people, telling people, hey, we gotta do XYZ, but you're not doing XYZ. When you go home, you a super nigga, right? Are you teaching righteousness, this and the third, but meanwhile you ain't taking care of your kids? You being just a lion in your house, right? Your house is out of order. I know we can all think about some individuals, right? You the super brew, big brew, you banging on your chest, right? You the top, this, that, and the third. But your kids are celebrating birthdays now, right? Your kids don't know what the word Abba means, right? You got kids, you don't know where they are. You don't support them whatsoever financially at all. You a top elder, right? You a top elder, and you bring it out on the streets, but you're abandoning your wives. I'm literally saying these things. I'm talking about actual individuals in this community. I'm just not going to say no names right now, right? Because the point of this lesson is not to get into all of the theatrics and all the nonsense that's been going on, right? But to literally show brothers how to be good husbands. And what I will say is this: in all my years of being in the truth, I came in the truth in the fall of 2018. So I'm coming up on 8 years. I have never seen the leaders of my former camp do a lesson on how to be a good husband. You want to know why? Because none of those niggas were good husbands. None of those niggas are good husbands. None of those niggas are good men. All of those niggas are full of it. That's just the sad reality, right? I've never seen a video like, my gosh, can you think of a time when we ever had a video on how to be a good husband? It never happened, right? So, right, it's important that as we getting closer and closer to the day of salvation, as we are, God knows how long away from Jacob's trouble really, really kicking off, right? We have to be better men. We have to be better husbands. We have to be better fathers. We have to be better brothers. We have to, not just two brothers. And that's the thing. That's the problem in the Hebrew Israelite community. Niggas are such great brothers to each other. Not really. It's really just, it's nonsense, honestly, right? It's when you think about something like, for instance, you got capitalism, right? what America has is called crony capitalism. You have brotherhood, and then within the Hebrew Israelite community, you got all these swelling words and statements. Brotherhood's the final chamber. Brotherhood over breakdown. But this is crony brotherhood. It's not real brotherhood because real brothers hold each other accountable. Real brothers call each other out on their BS. Real brothers show true love by correcting, rebuking, not suffering sin upon their neighbor, correcting their neighbor in any wise. Right?
Right.
So,
Speak to that right real quick, because right again, we on integrity, right? You know, a lot of brothers, man, you know, this like you said, this brotherhood thing that's in the community is I'm starting to, you know, see it's one of the things that actually make it easy for brothers who are, you know, not being good husbands, right, to be able to just do that. Because, you know, again, oh, that's a good brother. So, you know, this brotherhood is, like you said, brothers is strong words. They you know, this is a good brother. That's a good brother, right? But like, how good of a husband is he, right? And we finding out that these guys who we think are good brothers, decent brothers, it's like, you know, things are coming to light, and it's like, damn. But because brothers are puffing somebody up to be good brothers, when you see these things happen, now it's like, oh, we just got to give him grace, 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 grace. When, for one, you know, that's not how even grace works, right? Even when Yahawashi, right, gave grace to that sister, right, who he knew was an adulterer, what did he still tell her?
go and sin no more.
Sin no more, right? And again, like this, again, let's bring it back to integrity, because, like I said, Yahawashi even spoke to this, right? Because you're bringing out Paul, right? I wanted to bring out Matthew 6, right? I want to read verse 3 and verse 4 and 6. I mean, yeah, verse 3, 6, and 16. Right, verse 3 says, "But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thy alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth it in secret himself shall reward thee openly." Right, verse 6 says, "But thou, when thou prayest, enter into a closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and let the Father which is in secret, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly." Right, verse 16 says, "Moreover, when ye fast, be not as hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast." And that's, again, this is what it's speaking to. Like, brothers, you know, it's easy in this community, right? This is one of the things, like, brothers are focused on appearing, right, to everyone, like, right, they're this great Israelite, right? They're just they're standing on, you know, standing on this word 100%, right? There's people actually focused on this, and that's why you'll see things about these people, like worried about the views, worried about, you know, all these other things, right? It's because these are brothers who have been puffed up with this so-called brotherhood in the community, stuff like that. But again, here we see Yahawashi saying, like, all these services are to Yahweh. He's saying do them in secret. Why? Because the notion here is integrity. Like, you should be trying to serve Yahawah, right? And let him, and worry about only him seeing it, right? Worry about him seeing it. Why? Because again, he gonna reward you openly in his due season. But brothers want to be outwardly, right? Because again, in this community, I mean, let's face it, like, I've seen that rewarded, right? Being outwardly, you see brothers rank up because they're this outwardly.
Yep. Bro, it's insane. Here's a post that I made on Facebook the other day, right? In light of the things that transpired this past week. It's been a very interesting week here at Israelite headquarters, right? In the Hebrew Israelite community. So I said, I'm wholeheartedly convinced a lot of you niggas in the truth want women to be held accountable to the highest degree, yet you want to be given free reign to do whatever the F you want to do with no accountability. Right. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about with this crony brotherhood, like this fake brotherhood, right? Like brotherhood is a lot of things, right? It's camaraderie, right? But the most important thing about being a brother, right, is sharpening your brother. Iron sharpens iron, right? Another important thing is, again, is accountability. You have to keep your brothers accountable, right? We live in a world where if you criticize someone, right, it's seen as hating.
Mm-hmm.
No, criticism, correction, that's true love, right? When we look at Leviticus 19, 17, and 18, it outlines that love is not suffering sin upon your neighbor in any wise rebuking him, right? Or her. That's what love. Proverbs says that rebuke is better. Open rebuke is better than secret love. If someone's in your corner, so to speak, and they're not correcting you when you do something wrong, they're not really in your corner. Imagine you're a boxer, and the people in your corner say, "You're doing good, champ," but you get in your life.
On all the cars.
You go out on every car. You get in rock. You get in sock and bop them every round. They're not really. These are not the right guys that should be in your corner. Like, yo, move your head. Get off the line. Right. Let your hands go. Do X, Y, Z. That's what a good coach, what a good cornerman is going to do for a boxer in a fight. And we're in this fight called life, right? We're literally fighting for our lives here in Babylon, right? So we have to hold each other accountable, right? And this is why integrity is so important. Let's go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 9, right? 1 Kings 9.
Okay. 1 Kings 9.
1 Kings 9. Start at verse 3.
Okay. All right, 1 Kings 9, verse 3. And Yahawash said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me, and I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there, and therefore, there forever. And my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually.
Mm-hmm.
And if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart.
Of what?
Of heart.
Integrity of heart, right? Integrity starts with your heart, your mind, right? Now, did David sin? Yes, David didn't just sin in the manner of Uriah, right? As the book of Kings says, David numbered Israel, sin, niggas died for it. David married the daughter of the king of Jeshurun, right? Which was a Canaanite, sin. That child, one of the children of when you really look at what David's life, David is, he's one of the most highly regarded individuals in the Bible, and I love King David, right? But we gotta set something straight. King David wasn't, he was not without fault, was not without sin, right? But when he sinned, he had a contrite spirit and a broken heart, and was truly remorseful and actually changed. Right? When you read Psalms 51, where he's making that prayer, he says, now will I teach others to fear thy commandments. Right? It's kind of like when Jay-Z said, like I told you so, drugs. No, Hov did that, so hopefully you don't have to go through that. Right? David did what he did, and all hell broke loose in his family, in his house, right? and his story is for our learning, right? So David married that Canaanite woman. Know who those children were? Tamar. She got what? She got violated. And then Absalom is also a child of that marriage. Absalom, after murking Amnon, which was good, goes to war against David, goes and kicks it with his grandfather, who's a Canaanite, comes back, pops his dad's conkeys on the top of the house for the whole city to see, right? That's just insanity. That's evil and wicked. All of that because David sinned in that manner, right? By marrying a Canaanite, right? Again, he numbered Israel, of course, the manner of Uriah, the Hittite, right? So even though David did all those things, right, the Most High still said that he walked in integrity of heart, in uprightness, right? Read on.
Con, again, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments. Then I will establish thy throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel.
Right. So again, that was the promise that the Most High God gave to David, and of course, that Most High God is going to make good on that promise because Yahawashi, he is that individual who walked in integrity of heart, in uprightness, and kept all God's commandments. Right. Was a perfect, blameless lamb without blemish. Right. He died because of the sins of the nation of Israel, and he's going to be exalted and put on the throne of David forever and ever. All praise to the Most High, right? But again, integrity of heart, doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 1. Job 1 and 6, and then we're going to jump to Job 2.
Okay. This is Job chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahawah, and Satan came also among them. And Yahawah said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahawah and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahawah said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil.
Right. So God is saying that Job is perfect. He's upright. He keeps my commandments and he avoids evil. Right. Read on.
Then Satan answered Yahawah and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Has not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he have on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Hold on. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face.
Right. So Satan popping, he gonna curse you. If you take away everything from him, right? He gonna curse you. Listen, I don't have highs and I don't have lows, right? And I understand that regardless if I'm up or I'm down, the Most High God is in control. And listen, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Why would I? Again, I think, and we'll get to it in a second, right? Job had a response to his wife. It don't matter what I'm going through, right? You have to have the same mind. No matter what you're going through. Curse God? What? What sense does that make? Cursing the King of Terrors? Cursing the creator of all things? That doesn't make sense. Right? No, it doesn't make sense at all. Now let's jump to Job chapter 2 and let's jump down. Let me see. We're gonna jump down.
You kind of got to look at it and think about it too. Like, as a parent, like me, a lot of us are parents. When you get chastised, like you try to curse God for chastising, right? In your heart, right? You start tripping. Imagine like, your kids is wild and doing something you repetitively, told them not just to stop doing. And then they do it in your face. And so you whoop them. And while you're whooping them, they talking crazy to you.
You're going to whoop him even harder. You're
going to tear them up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tear them up. So, like, you got to think about that, like, groaning the Yahawaah, all right? Cursing Yahawaah, when you go through it, it's like, that's perspective, right? That's what you're doing. He whooping you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is what you're doing?
Yep. Let's read from verse 7, right? So basically, right, Job, his kids got killed. Most High took a bunch of his substance, right? Job maintained his integrity, right? Chapter 2, right? Now Job's getting stricken in his flesh, right? Satan is putting a disease on him, right? So let's read from verse 7.
Verse 7. So went Job 2, verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of Yahawah and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown.
Imagine having boils on your feet. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Big old boily blisters with pus and stuff inside of it. Right, read on.
Mm-hmm. And he took him a potsherd to escape himself with him. And he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die.
So now his woman started to get the tripping, right? You see, when Satan knows what to do, right? He understands that the woman is the weaker vessel, so he's going to attack your woman, right, to get to you. Satan is, we got to understand that Satan's one of the sons of God. He's one of the sons of God. So that means that he was created before we were. So he's seeing us getting created, and he knows everything about us, right? He's a formidable opponent. So what he's going to do is he's known as the accuser. He's going to send something your way, right, to trip you up and then accuse you. For real, Satan's a bitch. Satan's really a bitch ass nigga, right? But again, he's good at his job. And that's what he's created to do, right? So see how he got into the mind of his wife, right? Wife says something crazy. Do you retain thy integrity, nigga? Curse God and die. While her husband's going through a physical ailment, he's sick. It's crazy, right? Read verse 10.
Verse 10. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive good at the hand of God, and not we and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips.
Right? Because Job maintained his integrity, right? You gotta be like Job. When life gives you lemons, right, you gotta make lemonade. When life gives you punches, you gotta roll with the punches. Like one of my favorite boxes is Jerron Boots Ennis. Right. What I like about Boots can get real lackadaisical on defense sometimes, right? And because he just has this natural like talent and ability. So he a lot of times he takes, depending on the level of comp, he don't really, he like, man, whatever. But what I love about Boots is even in that, like he'll take a shot and he'll roll with it. Because when you roll with the punch, you take some of the sting off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you gotta roll with the punches, right? And maintain that integrity. Let's go to Psalm 25 and 21.
Psalm chapter 25, verse 21.
Actually, let's start verse 20.
Verse 20. Oh, keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee.
Uh-huh.
Right? And think about that. Let me not be ashamed. Right? Think about people who don't hold their integrity. When Yahweh lets that come to light, what happens?
Now it's all this shame.
Yeah.
Now you gotta go on YouTube, right, and make a video saying, "Man, I'm sorry." Nigga, you should have did it because you knew it was wrong, right? Now you gotta come and say, "Man, I put you niggas before my kids, man. Oh, if y'all gotta bag up, go ahead and bag up." Silly shit like that, right? Meanwhile, you knew exactly what you were doing, and you knew that the Most High God's judgment was likened unto a ring, but you somehow thought that you was gonna get away with it. And here you are, a laughing stock, right? Here you are, you're a meme, right? Because you were so high and mighty, you was popping it, this, that, and the third, and the Most High God abased you because and made you shameful because of the shameful things that you've done, right? You don't want to be in that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that person, right? Read on.
Con. Verse 21. Let integrity and uprightness preserve thee, for I wait
preserve me.
Preserve me, for I wait on thee.
Right. So I want to see what this word for integrity is. Thumb. Integrity, uprightness. Thumb. Let's see. To be complete. The root is to be complete. So integrity, completeness, right? This honestly might have been the word that Yahawashi said, be ye therefore perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Right? It might have been that word, right? So looking at David, right? Again, David sinned, David made mistakes, but David was perfect. His heart was perfect, right? He had integrity of heart, right? You have to have that integrity, right? And allow that to preserve you. That's what's going to preserve you. You walking in uprightness and you having integrity, doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? When we look at David's situation, David did not do the right thing when no one was looking in the situation with Bathsheba, right? He did not do the right thing, right? And again, the scriptures were written aforetime for our learning, right? So there's, again, positive and negative examples of things that we see in the scriptures, and we got to learn from them, right? And do better, right? So again, that's step one, right? In order to be a good husband, you have to, one, be a good man and with integrity, right? Step two, you need to be a healed man, right? You have to be a healed man. I don't have a lot of precepts on this, right? On this one right here, right? But you have to be a healed man, right? And what do I mean by that, right? Again, we all have gone through a ton of different things, right? We all have different stories. We all have different testimonies, right? Some of us, again, did not have both our parents in our lives, right? Some of us did, right? Even if some of us did, some of us may not have had the best relationship with parents, right? Some of us have been real down bad, right? We all had different circumstances. Some of us been to jail. Some of us have just had a ton of things come our way, right? And all those bumps and bruises and those punches, right? It takes a toll on you, right? We as a people, we have a lot of trauma as a people, and that's male and female, right? So in order to be a good husband, you have to heal from that past trauma, right? In addition to that, right, and being a healed man is self-accountable. You have to be self-accountable to be a good husband. Because if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? And the thing is, in the Hebrew Israelite community, right, there's this notion that a wife cannot correct her husband. There's this notion that a wife cannot correct her husband or teach her husband anything, right? Or she's got to shut up, right? Just like that white woman told LeBron to shut up and dribble, right? A lot of you Hebrew Israelites, right? Y'all live with this mindset of shut up and make me a sandwich. Shut up and be in order. But nigga, you're not in order, right? You have to be self-accountable, right? you have to be disciplined. Right? You have to be a disciplined man. And when it comes to discipline, the most important thing that brothers have to get in check is lust. Right? How many? Again, I have no issue with polygyny. Right? Polygyny is definitely lawful. Right? I'm not going to break Deuteronomy 4:2. Right? But because a brother comes to the knowledge of truth and he hears, oh, a man can have more than one wife. And then you hear silly talking points like, oh, a man can't cheat. Or you hear silly talking points like, oh, what's another one? Man can't cheat. And this, that, and the third. Niggas think, oh, yeah, I can have more than one wife. Like, that sounds great. Because they're not thinking with this head. They're thinking with that head. They're not thinking, they're not using their thinker. They're using their pecker. That's what they're doing, right? It's because you have that lust inside of you, right? And especially because we grew up here in Babylon, right, where everything is hypersexualized, right? Niggas been watching porn since they were 5, 6, 8 years old. Some of us losing virginities at crazy young ages. That's all trauma, right? We were raised in an environment where we were forced to grow up and to not be children, right? Brothers sisters lose their virginity 11, 12, 13, 15, even 17. Your children shouldn't be having sex, right? And all of that is trauma, right? And that lust gets deeply ingrained in you. And if you can't check that, you're not going to be a good husband, right? You got a precept?
And this brings all that together, right? Because again, second step is healing, right? And you speaking to everything, that men need to heal, right? This was what Yahawashi commissioned the 12, right? This is in Matthew 10, start at verse 7. It says, "And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand." Verse 8 says, "Heal the sick," right? And we know we're sick, right? But what we go to Isaiah 1:5, it says, "Why should ye be stricken anymore? Ye will revolt more and more, and the whole head is sick." Right? And that goes back to the point, who's the head, right? We know Yahawashi is the head, right? And you're not following Yahawashi's example, right? You're not following what Yahawashi told us to do, right?
Yahawashi is the physician, right? See, the issue is Yahawashi is not here. He's not physically here to be our head and to be our leader, right? So whoever you follow, whoever you lead, right? Again, the whole head is sick, right? I'll give you a prime example, Sakari, right? Once it was revealed to me that the whole house was festering, right, with gross mildew, because it started where? At the head. And it trickled on down, right? If you got a hole in your roof, that water's going to get in. It's going to start to rot out the beams. It's going to come down the walls, right? You're going to have mold building up behind your walls, right? It can get down to your foundation, right? If you left unchecked, it will go down to your foundation, and now that house needs to be condemned, right? Again, I brought this analogy out last year, right? We look at the book of Leviticus, it talks about when there's leprosy of a home, right? Meaning mildew, right? Again, there are parameters that the priest has to take in order to either cleanse that house, or if it gets to a point where it's just too bad, now the whole house is going to be torn down and has to be rebuilt, right? And that's exactly what happened, right? So again, this is very important to understand, right? You said you still got more of that precept?
I mean, that was the point, right? Because, like I said, we see in Isaiah, this is the whole head is sick. But then, right here, we see Yahawashi commission us to heal the sick. So if we're commissioned as the men to go out here and bring our people into the fold, bring our people back to the laws and the righteousness, we have to heal ourselves, right? So we got to be doing that and make sure we're standing on that. Make sure we have integrity, right, to do this so that we may be healed ourselves, so that we can be examples, not just going out here talking the game, but actually being an actual example.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah, you gotta be healed, man. You gotta have that self accountability. You have to be disciplined, right? You gotta get that lust in check, right? Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 6 and verse, I think 12 is the point, but let's see. Just read verse 12.
Verse 12 says, "Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that ye should obey it in the lust thereof."
Right? So don't allow sin to take over your body, right? Right. And again, you shall not obey the lust thereof, right? Because again, you ain't been healed, right? You haven't been washed by the water of the word fully, right? And again, this is we did a lesson. Let me see how long ago it was. This is a very important lesson, right? And if you haven't watched this is why I think brothers and sisters need to watch this, right? Courting in truth, wisdom for Israelite relationships, right? So a big problem in the Hebrew Israelite community, right, is because again we are adults, right? But a lot of us are not spiritually adults, right? And just a little spoiler, right? This was the recommendation that I gave, right? If you are a brother or sister, right, and you come into the knowledge of the truth, right, the last thing on your mind should be, I need to find a wife, right? You come into the truth, you single, right? The last thing in your mind is, hey, let me go get a wife. I want a husband, right? What you need to do is you need to get built up and girded up first, right? And again, I'm putting the onus on brothers because, right, when it comes to the dynamic between a man and a woman, right, a brother has to pursue, a brother has to have some type of initiative, right? And a brother can choose whether or not he puts his you know what and you know where, right? Right. We know. Listen, we know you can't just take it, right? We not doing that, right? Torah says stone upon your head top if you do that, right? But and this is something that I of course learned well after me being in the truth, right? It's not a good idea to try to court a sister who just came in the truth, because you don't know whether or not the seed that was planted in her is going to actually flourish and grow to produce fruit, right? We know Yahawashi's parable about the sower. Sower sows the word, right? Scriptures talk about how men are like trees, right? Good fruit can't come from bad trees, and bad fruit can't come from good trees, right? Now we look at the Torah. The Torah says that when you come into the land, right, you plant vineyards and orchards and whatnot, you are not allowed to eat of the fruit of a tree, right, in the third year. Typically, fruit trees don't start producing fruit until about the third year on average, roughly, right? It depends on the species, right? Around the third year. But according to the Torah, you can't eat that fruit. Let's say I plant an olive tree today. I cannot, well, let's say I planted 3 years ago. I can't eat of that fruit this year. In the fourth year, that fruit has to be consecrated unto the Most High God. In the fifth year, you can freely eat of that fruit. So it's important that brothers and sisters not be hasty, right, in trying to find a spouse. And then even in the courtship process, you need to take your time, right? And we'll get a little further into that as we get further down in our steps, right? We're still on step 2, right? of how to be a good husband. You got to be disciplined. You got to have self accountability. You got to be healed, right? You gotta check that lust, right? Now, again, if you came into the truth with you already had a woman, you already had a wife, that's one thing. But if you're a single brother, right, or a single sister, you just come into the truth, last thing on your mind should be courting. Last thing on your mind should be marriage. What you need to do is focus on building yourself up, being the best woman, being the best man that you can be, so that you can be a good husband or a good man to a woman, so that you can be a good wife, a good woman to a man, right? Let's get Galatians chapter 5 and 16.
Galatians 5. Hold on, go back. You said verse 15?
Verse 16.
Verse 16. Galatians 5, verse 16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
Walk in the spirit, and shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh, right? Now, how does one walk in the spirit, right? What is the spirit, right? Yahawashi said in John 6:63, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit in their life. Now, when Yahawashi spoke about the topic of marriage, right? In Matthew the 19th chapter, he said that unless it's for the manner of fornication, which is an unlawful sex, right? You cannot put your wife away. Those are Yahawashi's, the words that he spoke, that's the spirit in this life. So if you're a single brother, right? And say you're at a point where you're mature enough, where you've been built up in the spirit, right? You've been in the truth, right? And you've been diligently seeking the Most High God and keeping his commandments and striving towards perfection, right? And now it's time to find a wife. Because again, the scriptures say, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing, right? You have to make a really, really solid and vetted decision, because you have to understand that unless there's no getting out of this, this is for life, right? This is a commitment, right? You have to be sure that this is a woman that is worthy of calling you her husband, and understand that you're worthy of calling a woman your wife. You have to understand that, because again, you can't just put a woman away for anything, right? So understanding that, right, walking in the spirit and understanding Yahawashi's words, right, that's going to allow you to be able to withstand the lust of the flesh, right? Of course, there's other things that he spoke of, other aspects, and that's going to help you be a better man and better husband, right? Because lust, those unbridled lusts and desires, right? We saw how that toppled individuals in this community, right? Because a nigga can't stop whacking off to the hub, right? And now niggas be on Twitter, right? And watching all types of you know what, because you can't get that under control, right? Because you just so hyper sexualized, right? And thinking with your lower member instead of your brain. You're gonna get yourself in a world of hurt, right? So you have to walk in the spirit to fight the lust of the flesh, right? Read on.
Now verse 17. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other.
Right, they're opposed, right? Read on.
So that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
Come on.
But if ye be led of the spirit, ye are not under the law.
Come on.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication,
right? Other illicit sexual activities, right? Read on.
uncleanness,
Come on.
lasciviousness,
Come on.
idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envies, murders, drunkenness, reveling, and such like,
Uh-huh.
of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven.
And see, and that's what it all boils down to, right? The inheritance of the kingdom of heaven. In order to inherit the kingdom of heaven, you have to do the opposite of these things. You have to walk in the spirit. And part of being worthy of inheriting the kingdom is being a good steward of the things that the Most High God gave you, right? And again, going back to the topic of marriage and being a husband and being a wife, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. If you're not a good steward of the wife that the Most High God gave you, you risk being judged for mishandling that, right? Because you're supposed to be the head. You're the leader. If you lead her off a cliff, that blood's on your hand, right? So again, brothers gotta check that lust demon. You have to overcome them. Gotta overcome that lust demon. Who is this guy? The truth is the law, not what you say, kid. What are you talking about? Let's get this guy out of here because you're a detractor, right? And you're just a goofball.
People be saying that in general. Like, what do you mean? So only what Moses said. I don't understand them brothers even.
He says something else slick, right? But we're moving on, right? So let's go to Tobit chapter 8 and verse 5, right? This was as I was putting this together, I'm like, yeah, this is I gotta bring out this precept in Tobit.
This is the Tobit 8 verse 5. Then began Tobias to say, "Blessed art thou, O God of our fathers, and blessed is thy holy and glorious name forever. Let the heavens bless thee and all thy creatures.
Come on.
Thou madest Adam and gavest him Eve, his wife, for an helper and stay."
For a helper, right? Not for a slave, not for a lick, not for, to fund your lifestyle and whatnot. Not for any of that, right? For a helper. Read on.
And stay. Of them came mankind. Thou hast said, it is not good that man should be alone. Let us make unto him an aid like unto himself.
An aid, right? Your wife is supposed to be an aid, a helpmate, right? Read on.
And now, O Lord, I take not this my sister for lust.
Let's slow this down. I take not my what?
My sister.
My sister, right? You have to understand, right? If you have an Israelite wife, that Israelite woman is your sister, right? We're not talking about, oh, this is my actual blood sister, right? We're not talking about no incest, right? But that's your sister, right? And again, going back to some of just the things I've seen in this community, brothers want to have sisters held to the utmost accountability, but they don't want the same for themselves. And they mask it behind brotherhood, and brotherhood's the final chamber, and brotherhood over breakdowns, and all this other nonsense, and grace when niggas get exposed for doing all types of evil. No, nigga. Y'all see, when the Bible says let brotherly love continue, when you understand the Hebrew language, right? When you see the phrase, the children of Israel, it literally means sons. It's verbatim literal is the sons of Israel, but it encompasses the women because Hebrew is a male dominant language.
Mm-hmm.
There's no brotherhood and sisterhood shouldn't be separated, right? Like I'm the oldest, right? I have a little brother and a little sister. I'm a brother to my brother, and I'm a brother to my sister.
All right.
And in the Hebrew Israelite community, you niggas are brothers to just the men. It's like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, right? Little Rascals is my favorite movie of all time, right? Okay. He-Man, the Hebrew Israelite community is like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, and it's really sickening because these women that you niggas hate so much, these are your sisters, and you have to be a brother to them too, right? So again, going back to our first step, you gotta be a good man. And men protect the women in their lives. Right? I remember I was growing up. My cousin, she was about 4 years older than me. So when she's in high school, I'm in middle school, and I hung out with her and her friends and whatnot. And I remember she had a boyfriend when she was in 9th grade, and he cheated on her with her best friend or whatever. And it was a whole bunch of nonsense. I'm in middle school. I'm in like at this time, because she was in like 9th grade, I had to be in like 5th or 6th grade. I'm ready to fight this nigga for my cousin. Why? Because a man is supposed to protect the women in his life. Protect your sisters, your cousins, your mother, all of that, right? But that's something that's lacking within the Hebrew Israelite community. And we wonder why we have so many dysfunctional marriages and relationships in the community, right? You have to be a brother to your sisters. Have to. You have to be a brother to your sister, right? So looking at Tobias's prayer, right? He says, I take not this my sister for lust. That shouldn't be the main reason why you marry a woman, right? Because you want to get your dick wet, right? He goes back to Adam and Eve. God gave Eve to Adam to be a helper, right? Because guess what? It's being an adult is hard enough, right? We've coined a term called adulting. Adulting sucks, right? And listen, before I met my wife, listen, because my mom raised me a certain way, I didn't need to get a wife because I needed her to clean for me or to cook for me, right? This, that, and the third, right? I cleaned my own crib. I cooked my own food, did all that stuff, right? But again, part of being a husband, right? Part of being a wife, part of just being a human being, of being a human adult is you want companionship, right? So you don't just take a woman just for lust, because guess what? When you just see a shorty, right?
That shit run dry.
Right? You see a shorty, right, with a big butt and a smile, right? When you see a shorty with a big butt and a smile, like they always say, don't trust a big butt and a smile, right? You see that. Listen, you see shorty with the cakes, and you're like, oh damn, I need that, right? Think about Jacob. Jacob saw Rachel, right? The Bible says that Rachel was shapely. You mean? And that's who he wanted. He worked 14 years for her, got Leah, got tricked, right? And when you read on the story, Rachel stole her father's idols. So she was an idolater. And God killed her. But Leah, the hated wife, the one he didn't want, gave him most of his children. So he had 13 kids.
Between the sisters, yeah.
Between the sisters and the concubines, right? He had 13 kids. 2 came from Rachel, 2 came from each concubine. So he got 7 out of the 6 of his 13 kids from Leah. He didn't see her like, oh damn, I need that. right? He saw little sis had the cakes and was like, yeah, I need that. And he put in work for her, right? End up, you know what I mean, having 4 little joints or whatever, right? But again, the purpose of having a wife and being a husband is not for lust. That shouldn't be the main focus, right? Let's read on.
I mean, you're gonna have kids, right? Like, I mean, you know, there's this thing that is it goes, that I don't like. All right, it's a thing in the world where men one thing men hate about women is that their their it seems like their love dies when they get a children from the man they're with, right? Or they start focusing on the children more, right? And men don't like that, right? Men start looking at it like they're underperforming for the man, this and that, right? And like I said, I hate that about I hate that notion, because it's like that should be one of your number one picks for your woman, is that how great of a parent she's going to be for your children, right? Like that should be your number one thing. Like, yeah, you want to be attracted to your woman, obviously. Like, no one's saying get somebody like she's just a good woman. You know what I mean? Like, all right, but at the end of the day, we're talking about the woman who's going to nurture your children, right? Like, that's what you want. So,
Yeah.
but brothers, like, you not thinking about that. Like, if you only out here just trying to bag a shorty, right? And the result of sex is, right, children. You ain't begging for that, but shorty end up being like a nutcase, or y'all just constantly going at it because in reality you're a noodle, right? You're a goofy, and she really tired of you.
You two peas in a pod, two idiots. Again, a wicked woman's given as a portion to a wicked man, and now you got kids involved, and that's just a terrible situation.
Yeah.
Just a terrible situation, right? Is it? Yeah. So yeah. What did he say? He said, "I take not this my sister for lust, but uprightly, therefore, mercifully ordained that we may become aged together." And she said with him, "Amen." Right? That's a beautiful prayer, right? And again, the mindset is, listen, I'm not taking her for lust. I'm sure. I think her name was Sarah, wasn't it Anna in the book of Tobit? I believe her name was Anna. She probably was a baddie. You know what I mean?
Anna, was it?
She probably was a little baddie. Right, that's why she had a demon that was in love with her. Right, she had a demon in love with her and killed every nigga that went into the bed chamber. Right, so she had to be a little baddie, right? But again, even though she was a baddie, right, that's not why Tobias took her. Right, he had to, because literally the law. Right, he was the next in line, right? Because you had the lever in marriage situation. So again, it's all about being upright. So that's it on that part, right? So we don't went over 2 steps, right? You got to be a good man of integrity, right? You have to be step 2. You have to be a healed man who's self-accountable, who has discipline, right, and has bridled his lust, right? Has overcome that lust demon, right? Step 3, you have to be a servant and a good steward, right? But Ariella, Genesis says that the woman was made for the man and not. I'm not saying that's not the case, right? Oh, she was made to be a help me. Help me doesn't mean servant, right? But you have to be a servant, right? Why? Why do I say that? Let's go to the gospel. Go to the gospel. Matthew 23 and so basically the disciples asked, if they could essentially Actually, no. All right. No, this is a different account, right? But let's read from Matthew 23 and start at verse 10.
Come. Matthew, you said Matthew 3 or 23?
23 and 10.
Come, Matthew 23 and 10. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Hamashiach.
Uh-huh.
But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant.
He that is greatest amongst you shall be your servant. Right, read on.
And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted.
Right. So again, looking at 1 Corinthians 11, right? The head of the man is Christ. The head of the woman is the man. The head of Christ is God, right? God, Christ, man, woman. When we look at, for instance, the Most High God is not served. He gets served, right? Because he is the Most High God, right? But looking at the rest of that order, right? Yes, Yahawashi is the head of us as men, but was he not a servant? Did he not come down, we'll get sent down, and live the perfect life? And did he just lay his life down for us all? When I say us all, I'm talking about the nation of Israel. Yahawashi died for the worst Israelite imaginable. That's no greater love he talked about, right? Than a man to lay down his life for his friends. He laid his life down for his friends, for niggas that who hated him. He laid his life down for the entire nation of Israel. He was a servant. We literally have something known as the suffering servant. But guess what? He's going to be the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So husbands, you have to be a servant to your wives too. Because the greatest among you shall be a servant. If you're her head, you're above her, you got to be a servant, right? Leaders have to be servants. Leaders have to serve. Yahawah, during the Last Supper, Yahawashi, the Son of God, got down on his knees and washed his disciples' feet. He did that. But again, he's the Son of God, the firstborn of every creature. He washed the feet of his creation. He was a servant. Again, if you're going to be a good husband, you have to be a servant, right? And you have to be a good steward. What does it mean to be a steward, right? Steward, right? A steward is a manager, administrator, or caretaker responsible for overseeing property, finances, an institution, or the well-being of others, right? I used to be a property manager, right? And what I would always, like, whenever I was like interviewing for a new role or whatnot, I will always talk about how, as a property manager, I have to wear many hats, right? There's times when, yeah, I'm the manager. I have people who are underneath me, right? I got maintenance guys, I have leasing agents, I have XYZ. But it may be a day where my freaking maintenance guy calls out. Or there's a day where my leasing agent calls out. Guess what? I have to step in and I have to do the leasing, right? Well, my leasing agent could have scheduled a whole bunch of appointments. And let's say they had an emergency, they were sick, right? Something happened, they couldn't come in. Guess what? I got to pick up the slack. I got to put on my leasing agent hat and go and do their job. My last property management job, the situation was crazy, right? Had 2 buildings, 1 maintenance guy for like way too many apartments, right? So there were times where my maintenance guy was tied up doing something, and a service request came in, a maintenance request came in, and it's something that I could handle. I went and did it. That's what a steward does, right? A steward is a manager, administrator, or caretaker responsible for overseeing property, finances, and institution, or the well-being of others. That was my job, right? In order to be a good husband, you got to be a good steward, right? So you have to do what? Be a caretaker. You have to care for your wife, right? One day you and your wife will have children, if it be the Lord's will. You have to be a caretaker for your children, right? You have to be able to administer. These are important things, brothers, right? Very important things that you have to keep in mind if you want to be a good husband, right? 'Cause I'll be honest, I don't think any brother wants to be a bad husband. But I also know that every brother is not equipped to be a good husband, because every brother hasn't been taught how to be a good husband. Every brother hasn't been taught how to be a good man in general, right? See, a lot of times within the Hebrew Israelite community, especially of the One West ilk, right? A lot of times brothers get super hyper focused on breakdowns. Oh, what's the breakdown on this? What's the breakdown? Right? Niggas be trying to chew on goddamn Wagyu, a tomahawk steak with 2 baby teeth. Right? My son about to be 9 months. He got his 2 little front teeth bottom front teeth coming in. Right? We're not giving him steak to chew and properly digest. Right? He's drinking milk. Right? And the milk is the first principles of the oracles of God, the Torah, the commandments. Right? If you don't have that, you can't graduate to the next level. Right? So again, you got to be a good servant. You got to be a servant. You got to be a good steward. Right? Because even Yahawashi was a servant. Right? And he's our example. He's our head. He's who we should be following.
Just to add on, right? Just because, again, being a servant and being humble is not talking. A lot of people try to throw in like, how do I put it? Basically, you're like this cool, soft guy, right? Just always the cool, like always that cool, it's hard to put it in words, right? But just like almost like the yes man, right? Not quite a yes man, but like, because we know Yahawashi, right? He was the greatest servant of us all, but guess what? He also snapped on people, right? And that's a thing that we learn from Christianity, where snapping on people it's not the humble thing, right? It's not servant like to just be barking on people, right? But again, if we're trying to be like Yahawashi, right, the head, right, there's gonna be times for where it's called for, right? Y'all said he has made Israel's head hard, right? So we have to make our head hard. There's times where we gotta make our head harder against theirs. All right, so like we gotta stop. Like again, like I said, like that's why I said it's hard for me to like actually describe, but I know it's just something that Christianity breeds, like this false humility, this false humbleness,
pseudo humility. I know a brother in Christ who uses a lot of pseudo humility. I know a couple of brothers in Christ,
and it's just annoying because, like I said, this is something that you get from Christianity. This is why Christians come up with notions where, oh, you shouldn't say profanity words, curse words, like that's just unchristian like. It's like these type of things come from Christians because they push that notion like you got to be the nice person all the time, right? And that's just not real humble, right?
Mm-hmm. Right? So where we at, right? So step 4, you have to be emotionally intelligent, right? Oh my God. Let me tell you something. It really blows. Before I go there, right? I actually learned this term emotional intelligence probably back in 20. And these years are really starting to blend together. I think maybe 2023 or 2024. I did this program, this electrical solar program, and there's a free program here in Philadelphia that our utility company sponsors, and the nonprofit that administers it, right? They work with people of all types of backgrounds, right? Some people who've been out of jail and whatnot, and a lot of these, there's tons of different things. Like we did resume building, like something I learned and know how to do, right? There was brothers and sisters in the class that, of course, they never had that experience, right? So that was part of it, right? And I remember, right, it was like basically life skills. It was the actual technical hands-on skills that you need for the job, but there's also the soft skills and the people skills that you need to be able to work with people, right? And that was it. They were training us on, right? And one of the modules was on emotional intelligence, right? And it really put a lot of things into perspective for me, right? Now, what is emotional intelligence, right? And I can even say this right now, like many people will say, "Oh, I'm very intelligent, like I have IQ," right? That's just like book smarts, right? Just being able to grasp information and have understanding things of that nature, right? That's one thing, right? But emotional intelligence is a completely separate thing, and I can say that I still could work on advancing my emotional intelligence, right? And what I'm gonna go into right now. So, what is emotional intelligence, right? Because what really kills me is mostly men. Men love to say, "Oh, you're being emotional. Oh, you're being emotional." Newsflash, idiot! Everyone on the planet, every human being has emotions. When I hear a dumb nigga say, "Oh, you're emotional," what you're telling me is, one, you're probably emotionally unintelligent, and two, you might be intellectually unintelligent, right? So let's define what emotional intelligence is, right? So emotional intelligence, or EQ, right, is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and use emotions effectively, both your own emotions and those of other people, right? So the term was coined by a psychologist by the name of Daniel Goleman, and he popularized the concept and described it involving several key skills. We're going to go back to something that we touched on earlier: self-awareness. Self-awareness is recognizing your own emotions and understanding how they affect your thoughts and behaviors, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Me being from New York, like I've always been like in a hustle and bustle, like just move, right? Just to get things done, right? I want to get from A to B as quick as possible and as safe as possible, right? So when it comes to driving, I like to drive fast, right? And what sometimes I have to realize that, listen, my mama said, you said to me all the time, your urgency isn't everyone else's urgency, right? So sometimes I can get really upset when someone's doing something completely stupid on the road, right? One of my biggest flaws is I'm very intolerant to stupidity. It really, it just boils my blood sometimes, right? But I have to step back and realize, you know what? Everyone isn't going to be as smart as you, right? And everyone doesn't know everything that you know, right? So it is not their fault necessarily, right? If God wants someone to be stupid, then someone's just going to be stupid, right? Like, for instance, there's a nigga in the Bible named Nabal. His name means fool. God made him to be a fool, right? So I can't fault Nabal for being the fool that he is, that God made him to be. And who can make straight what God has made crooked, right? So I have to do a better job at realizing, all right, some people are just going to, they are who they are, and they're going to be who they are, right? And then it's not worth me getting bent out of shape about them being who they are, right? Just accept it and move on, right? So there's times like where I'm driving, right, and I'm in a rush, or I'm just in that mode where I gotta move, and sometimes I have to just sit back and, you know what, it's whatever. Like, let's just chill out, cool down, just cool it, right? That's me being aware that, all right, this is how my emotions typically are. I have to have that control over those emotions. I have to be self-aware in that, right? The next of these core skills is self-regulation, managing emotions in healthy and constructive ways. Example, staying calm during an argument instead of reacting impulsively. Sometimes that's something I got to work on, right? So I want brothers and sisters to think, how can these things that we're going over, how can I employ these in my life to be a good husband or to be a better husband, right? Because that's the topic, right? Being a good husband. You have to be able to self-regulate your emotions, right? The next one, 3, motivation, using emotions to pursue goals, stay resilient, and maintain a positive outlook, right? Example, continue to work toward a goal despite setbacks, right? Things happen in life, right? You just got to keep, again, roll with the punches. Number 4, empathy, understanding and sharing the feelings of others, recognizing when a friend is upset, even if they haven't said so directly, right? So part of that is reading body language, facial expressions, things of that nature, right? How important is that in a marriage, right? You should be able to know when your wife is upset. You should be able to know when your wife is sad, right? Sometimes your wife just needs a hug, right? So and the next one, 5, is social skills, building relationships, communicating effectively, resolving conflicts, and collaborating with others, right? So an example is handling a disagreement at work diplomatically, right? So these are skills that brothers and sisters should have, right? In building up your emotional intelligence, right? For instance, brothers, you see, your wife, the kids are just, they're just driving her crazy, right? You can see it's weighing on her, right? It may be time for a date night, right? Maybe time for, listen, just give her a hug, right? Women love hugs, they love cuddles, all that stuff, right? You got to be able to be emotionally intelligent to recognize and see that, so that you can give your partner what they need, right? So why is emotional intelligence important? People with strong emotional intelligence often communicate more effectively, right? So again, think about how that is important in a marriage, right? Communication is key, right? You want to be able to communicate effectively, all right? Build stronger relationships, handle stress better, resolve conflicts more successfully, demonstrate better leadership and teamwork, right? Again, as a husband, you have to be a leader, right? And your wife is your helpmate, so you guys are a team, right? Your wife isn't a slave, right? So again, emotional intelligence is super important. Now, another thing that's important with that ties in with emotional intelligence, right? Here on step 4, right, is understanding love language. All right, so let's take a look at some love languages, right? The 5 love languages, how to express heartfelt commitment to your mate, right? The 5 love languages by Jerry Chapman explains that people express and receive love in 5 distinct ways, right? Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch, right? Brothers, if you're courting a sister, right? Let's say you're at the stage where you're courting a sister, you should ask her what are her love languages, right? Because there's 5. Some people, I would say most people have 2, right? I would say that my love language is act of service, right? And words of affirmation, right? Those are the most important things for me, right? Acts of service and words of affirmation, right? I would say for my wife, probably words of affirmation and physical touch, right? And sometimes the woman just need a hug. See? You see? You see that? So you got to know your partner's love language, all right? And this ties into that emotional intelligence, right? Put a 1 in the chat if if you're married and you're in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you know your partner's love language. All praise to the Most High. Right, got a couple 1s in here. Right, so again, love language, understanding your partner's love language is super important, right? Because this is how they want to be loved, right?
And again, that ties into being a servant because a lot of guys look at themselves like they're not lovey-dovey, right? But most women are, right? And like you said, sometimes they just need that. So it's like you're a servant. That's part of you being a servant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do that for your woman. That's how you serve your woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And really, when you look at like Genesis 1, with Adam and Eve, not just 1, Genesis with Adam and Eve. Eve was made to be a helpmeet or be complementary to Adam, right? You 2 together are more complete and 1. That's why it says you become 1 flesh. You gotta be 1, right? So every person is different, right? Your Eve and your Adam different, right? Your love language is this is that, right? In order to be more whole and be more complete as a unit, as a team who's working together for the common goal of just life and raising children, you got to know how that person wants to be loved or needs to be loved, right? I don't know this person, but anyway, right? So yeah, emotional intelligence and love language is extremely important, right? Now, here's the thing, right? Let's say you're a brother, you know what I mean? And you're a brother who, let's say you don't have the you're not the not say that you're not that financially well, but you're a brother who you work hard, right? But you don't, let's say you ain't got a lot of extra cash, right? You don't want a chick who her love language is receiving extravagant gifts, right? You need a woman who, yeah, her love language could be receiving gifts, but sometimes you're gonna have to do some heartfelt, thoughtful gifts, right? Sometimes you could do a gift that ain't don't cost a lot of money, right? You gotta be able to think about these things and be creative, right? So that you can be an effective husband, right? So very, very important, right? Let's say, for instance, you got someone words of affirmation, right? Sometimes you just need that encouragement, right? And I would say that a lot of men like words of affirmation. That's probably I feel like real niggas words. This is real. When your wife speaks life into you and tells you that she's proud of you, that she, that you can do it, and this that there, it puts a battery in your back, right? Actually, let's I think it's in Proverbs 31, I believe it is. Man, where is it? That's not the one I want. It's in Proverbs. What is this precept? I hate when I forget a precept. Um,
You
yeah,
got Proverbs 18 and 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
That's not what I'm looking for, but that's good, right? Going into the words of affirmation. But damn, what is that precept?
Proverbs 31 and 26. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness.
That's a good one. That right there is a good one. That's good, right? But I don't. So where is it at? It's another one. It's in Proverbs. It says something along the lines of foolish woman, tariff.
That might be Sarat. I think I know what you're talking about.
Let's see. I'm gonna find it. This is what I want. Proverbs 14 and 1. Right? Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. Right? So again, I know the topic is how to be a good husband, right? But just going back to the topic of love languages, right? Again, a lot of men those words of affirmation, right? Sister, how can you build your house? Speak life into your husband, right? So yeah. So that's it on that. So lastly, right, and this is probably the most important. Step 5, you have to vet and choose the right woman. Right? You have again, you cannot be a good husband, right? If you pick the wrong woman. And again, usually when a brother picks the wrong woman, right, it's typically in a season where he's not where he needs to be, right? And like I could just think back on my life, and like I can think about all the women that I've been with in my life. Would they? I could think of one that would be a decent mother, right? Because you have to think long term, right? You're gonna get a wife, right? And having that wife, you guys are gonna be doing husband and wife things, and one of the outcomes of that is children, right? All praise to the Most High. My wife is a great mother. She's an amazing mother, and she's doing an amazing job. And that boy gives her gives her a rough time. Like last night, he was up from 4 in the morning to like 8. She was going through it. That little boy was taking her through it, right? But I know that I picked the right woman to be a good mother to my child and or future children, right? If I think of some of the women I've been with in the past, right? Some golly, I don't even want to think. Damn, like I don't even want to think about how life would be if I had children with said women, and now I'm not with them, right? Some brothers got baby mamas, right? Women that you were with, no longer with, and you got kids with them, and baby mamas could take you through it, right? If brothers make better decisions, especially when you come into the truth, when you're in the knowledge of the truth, right? You know that you're in this right? You're striving for perfection. You're keeping God's commandments, right? You got to pick the right woman. Sisters, you gotta pick the right man. Especially in this community, because I'm gonna tell you, your husband can be the biggest piece of shit in the world, right? And when he don't took you through the mud, and you finally speak out and then you expose him, you're gonna have a bunch of other stupid niggas like him that are going to drag you through the mud. We've seen it happen this week. We've seen it happen tons of times over the years, right? Gotta pick the right man, right? So for brothers, right, going because we're gonna wrap up soon, right? Looking at this topic, right? Let's go. Let's do a hot. Let's do an overview of what we discussed, right? One, you got to be a good man of integrity. In order to be a good man, you have to keep the commandments, which is the standard of right and wrong. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking. So you can't just be this outward Jew super brew, right? And inside being a freaking demon, right? You have to be a good man and a man of integrity to be a good husband. You have to be a healed man who's self-accountable, self-aware, is disciplined, all right, and has checked his lust, right? Third, you have to be a servant and a good steward. 4, you have to be emotionally intelligent and understand the love language of your spouse. And lastly, you have to vet and choose the right woman, because without doing that, all the other steps, with the exception of, I would say steps 3, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very hard. Even 4, right? Yeah, you can be emotionally intelligent, right, and understand, but this woman's emotions can be all over the goddamn place. Can be, and you not being able to manage your emotions and her emotions, y'all ain't gonna be able to work and communicate effectively. So it's super important that you vet and choose the right woman, right? So now, before we wrap up, let's just go through a bunch of precepts, right? Oldies but goodies, right? So let's go to the book of. Let's go to the book of. Let me go to. Let's get Ephesians chapter 5. Right, oldies but goodies. It would not be. I'd be remiss if we didn't bring these out, right?
From the top.
Ephesians 5:25.
All right, Ephesians 5 verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Hamashiach also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Gave himself. Christ died for the church, for the Israelites. right? You have to love your wife as Christ loved the church. And even before Christ died for the church, or died for Israel, right? He taught the people. He taught, right? You have to teach your wife, right? You have to lead your wife, right? You have to love your wife as Christ loved the church, right? Now, I know Christ went into the temple and overthrew the tables and started, you know what I mean, whipping niggas for turning the Father's house into a den of merchandise, right? And I would say that was love, right?
Right.
That was love on Yahawash's part. Don't love your wife in that way. Okay? Don't love her in that way. Because that's not love. Let's make that clear, right? Verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it by the washing of the water by the word. Right? So you have to cleanse your wife, sanctify your wife through the water of the word, meaning y'all got to be in the word, right? You have to be in the word. You have to live by the word, right? And you have to wash your wife in it, right? Very, very important, right? That he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish, right? So very, very important. You got to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3. Colossians 3 and verse 19.
Colossians 3, verse 19. Husbands, love your wives, and be not bitter against them.
Be not bitter against them, right? There's a precept. I'm gonna find it real quick. It's in the book of Sirach. Sirach to the 4
Going around as a lion.
and verse 30, right? Sirach 4 and 30. I got it. It says, be not as a lion in thy house, nor frantic among thy servants. Let not thine hand be stretched out to receive and shut when thou shouldest pay, right? So the point is, don't be a lion in your house, right? What do lions do? Lions roar, right? Lions go around tearing shit up. You don't want to be a lion in your house, right? And because of let's keep it Hebrew Israelites, a lot of times we just take shit too far. Niggas really be taking shit too far, man. It just be it's insane, bro. And like this past week, and then I've just seen a lot of stuff going on this week. I've seen a lot of different posts from different people and whatnot. And it's a shout out to the brothers of the refiners. This brother from the refiners, he had posted a video where he was on a podcast and they were asking about, well, he was Israelites usually like this XYZ, and he was talking to that and how he maneuvers and whatnot. We gotta really change the narrative about Hebrew Israelites. Like people hear Hebrew Israelites and they get turned off because what? They see a bunch of niggas in black spandex and leather and whatnot yelling at people on the street corners, right? And listen, sometimes you gotta bark on niggas, right? It's all about balance, right? It's all about just again balance. It's all about balance, right? Sometimes you might have to roar on a nigga, but sometimes you gotta approach someone in a different manner. And it's been several times where we've been bringing out the word, doing what the most high God's son told us to do, and going to the highways and hedges. And we've had conversations with brothers and sisters and said, you know what, I've seen Hebrew Israelites a bunch of times. Y'all are different. You know what I mean? Y'all really, people really receive what we were bringing out because of the approach, right? So that's super important, fam. We got to change the narrative, right? So again, Colossians 3, you can't be bitter to your wife. You're lying.
That's one narrative. And the two biggest ones with our community is that one and the misconception of what we're talking about now. Brothers not being good husbands. Sisters, a lot of sisters dealing with bullshit.
Knuckleheads, a bunch of knuckleheads. And like I'll keep it a buck and frank. You know what I mean? Like seeing what happened this week with Deacon's wife bringing out what she brought out. I'm like, damn, man. Like the fact that her father vouched for him. That's just I'm like, damn, that sucks. Like and I'll be honest with you, man. If I had a sister, like I have a sister, she's not in the truth. She ain't coming in the truth, right? And I got female cousins, right? I would never, ever recommend my sister or my cousin, my female cousins, or let's say some of my good female friends. I would never. The vast majority of you niggas, no, right? Listen. Ask my wife. She one of her best friends growing up is in the truth, right? He used to be a member of Sons of Thunder, and my wife asked him about me, and he did some homework. He's like, "Oh yeah, he's a decent brother," right? And this is why, coming back to this topic of being good husbands and being good men, right? We got to be good men for our sisters, right? We got to look out for our sisters, right? Because if I was some dick bag, right? Best believe he would have found out and like, yeah, nah, stay away from that nigga, right? Shout out to bro for, you know what I mean, really being a brother to his sister, right? And giving her a recommendation, right? We have to be like that. We have to be better men. Because again, you can't be a good husband if you're not a good man, right? So you got to be a good man. You got to be a good brother. You got to be a good son. You got to be a good father. You have to be everything that a man can be to anyone. You have to be that. You have to be a good man, right? You got to have that integrity, and you got to look out and truly love our sisters, right? Let's go to the book of.
And here's the thing, even about being like they said, be a good man, be a good brother, because it's like you may be dealing with a sister, right? And again, she got a lot going on that you got to deal with, right? But at the end of the day, like, if you're thinking like, all right, I'm a brother, right? This is my sister, right? Like, you got sisters that's annoying, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to protect them no matter, like I got cousins, right? And I got this one cousin, and she always dealing with this dude over and over and over and over. All right, her brothers done beat him up multiple times, right? Constantly telling her stop dealing with this dude, and she getting them into shit with the dude, leave him and then go back to him and constantly, right? But at the end of the day, the brother's always there for her, right? Even though she don't listen, right? That's them being good brothers. You see what I'm saying? Being a good man. Right? You might have a wife that constantly got issues. I mean, constantly bringing issues, right? But at the end of the day, you got to be who you are, who you're supposed to be, right? That's not conditional. Being who you are is like it's mandatory. Who you're supposed to be, that's a command from our God. Right? It's not a conditional thing. Right? Like, oh, if she's this way, then I could be like this toward, like, no. You gotta be who you're supposed to be at all times.
Oh, praise the Most High. All right. I think we got a couple more. This right here. This actually might be the last one, right? 1 Peter 3:7, right? And again, I just want you to notice how I'm skipping. Oh, wives obey your husbands, because we're not talking to those sisters today, right? For real, for real. We're talking to the brothers, right? How to be a good husband, right? This right here might be one of the most important scriptures for a husband in the Bible, right? Bring it out.
Con, you said
First Peter 3:7.
First Peter 3:7. And reads, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
According to what?
To knowledge.
You have to know her. You have to use your freaking brain. You know your wife, or you should know her. But the issue is, a lot of niggas just be, you mean, oh, sex is marriage. Oh, man. I'm going to lay with this sister. I've been courting her for 2 months. And boom, now we married. But you don't know her. Because you ain't vet her. Right? Because you wasn't thinking with the vessel, the organ God gave you to obtain knowledge. Because you didn't use that. You don't know jack shit about this woman. But her insides. Because you thought with this head. Right? Dwell with them according to knowledge. Read on.
Giving honor unto the wife.
Giving what?
Honor unto the wife.
Giving honor unto the wives. Listen, some of them phone calls that we heard this week was not that. It was the exact opposite of that. Right? Read on.
As unto the weaker vessel.
Unto the what?
Weaker vessel.
The woman's the weaker vessel. You know, we know this. It's like, and this is what kind of really boggles my mind, right? We read scripture like that and see, yeah, the woman's a weaker vessel. But yet and still, niggas in this community want to hold these women to the highest standard, to the utmost accountability, but they themselves don't want to be accountable. Nigga, you know how women are in general. And if you niggas made better decisions, right? If you made better decisions with your man parts, who you decide to be with, you wouldn't have the problems that you have, right? I'll give you an example. I had a nigga tell me, I love the bros more than I love a woman. I'm like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Let me tell you something. I don't love any nigga in or out the truth more than I love my wife. I don't love any nigga in this community, outside this community, more than I love my son. Priorities, right? Gotta have priorities. And listen, the Most High God gave you a wife, gave you children. He entrusted them to you. It's your job to be a good steward of them, protect them, maintain them, right? Have that administration, that caretaking, and that oversight, right? That's
it's in the law for us, like you said, it's in the law for us to love our wives more than
the Bible. Right? When a man gives a wife, he leaveth mother and father and cleaveth to his wife. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right? We've been in, like you said, in Deuteronomy, you're to provide this, and this for your wife. You got to do all these things by law. You got to do for your wife, right? That it's not mandatory for you to do for your brothers. Like that's like you got to even think about like what does even like loving your brothers more than your wife, like what does that look like, bro? Because we already know the law is our standard, right? We know how it's law that's the foundation of our love. Like, so what do you even mean? You love these men more than your woman.
Listen, a nigga said, I'll put you niggas before my kids, man. Nigga, what? Are you an idiot? I'm never putting none of you niggas above my child. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it. That doesn't mean I don't love y'all. Listen, I'll help brothers and sisters to the best of my ability, right? Love brothers and sisters. But I can't even fathom saying, yo, I love a bro more than I love my wife. What? That doesn't even make sense. It's literally the dumbest thing I've heard probably all year. It's probably the dumbest shit I heard all year. And I hear a lot of dumb things, right? Right, but again, we have to dwell with our wives according to knowledge. And when niggas have that sentiment, it's because you chose the wrong woman. It's because you were hasty and you didn't properly vet. Because the scriptures talk about, I'd rather dwell on a roof than to dwell with a brawling woman. Right? I'd rather imagine wanting to, bro. I don't know what the temperature is right now. Right? It's 78 degrees, so it's still warm outside. Right? 78 is hot. It's still hot. I don't want to sleep on a damn roof.
Right.
So if I'd rather sleep, it's like, for instance, when a nigga come home from work and he just sit and he parked in front of his car. He parked in his car in front of the crib and he's staying there for a couple of hours. That's because ain't no peace in that house. Because nigga, you chose the wrong woman. Or you mishandled that woman and now you've created a situation that sucks, right? So it's one or the other, right? But again, you gotta choose the right woman. So read on.
Con. Where was I at? That was verse
7. Just read verse 7 from the top again.
Con. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered.
Right? Listen, brother, like we're trying to be heirs to the kingdom, right? That's the goal, right? We want to enter into the kingdom, right? You should want your home, your house, your wife, your children, even if you have a wife and you don't have any children yet. You want to be heirs together in that, right? And part of that is you being a good husband who loves your wife, who again, part of loving your wife, you got to dwell with her, right? And you have to do so according to knowledge, right? You know that if this happens, right, she's gonna get pissed, right? I'll give you an example. I counseled a couple about a year ago, a couple times, and one of the problems that they had was the brother was super, I would say, inconsiderate, right? It was very inconsiderate. And again, a lot of times, especially in Hebrew Israelite community, brothers look at their wives as servants, right? And the complaint was that he just is a slob and leaves shit all over the place and whatnot. Like, it's not cool, not considerate, right? You have to be considerate to your partner. And I know that's like a far-fetched, wild idea amongst Hebrew Israelites. And then you're going to have silly niggas like, oh, this nigga's a simp. He wants to be considerate to his wife. This is why I can't stand Hebrew Israelites, man. It's like, man, a lot of you niggas don't deserve wives. A lot of you niggas don't deserve a lot of things, right? Definitely not a wife, right? Because some of y'all niggas are not good men, and that's why you can't be good husbands. Because again, a wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, right? If you're not a good man, you're a wicked man, right? But understanding that she's a weaker vessel, right? It says give honor unto the wife, right? You got to honor your wife. Same way your wife has to honor you, you got to honor your wife. Again, it's a two-way street. It's a relationship. It takes two to tango, right? Like, I'll give you another example, right? I used to be in a Latin dance troupe in college, and I also took a ballroom dance class in college, right? And in any type of ballroom dance, the man, right, he's the lead, right? He leads, right? And let's say you're doing a tango, right? You have to have a proper frame, right? And that proper frame allows you to lead the woman, right? I'll give you another example. Like let's say, for instance, in salsa or bachata or merengue, a lot of flair, right? So you're leading the woman, right? You're doing cross body turns, this, right? You have to, like, when you're leading a woman, you have to give her certain pressure, certain areas. You have to literally guide her, right? And if you're not able to lead a woman in dancing, right, it's going to be disjointed, right? And whenever you're doing a dance, right, you have like just like the basics or whatever, right? And then you have what's known as the shine portion of a dance, right? Where it's like you're not just doing like the basic 1-2 step or whatever, right? But you're like actually like on some freestyle type shit, or like you're like, let's say you're twirling the woman, right? That shine, like you're making that woman shine, like you're making her look good. The woman can't look good dancing and spinning and things of that nature, and let's say a salsa, bachata, whatever, if you're not leading properly. You got to be able to lead properly, right? To make that woman shine. So like going back to this verse, right? You have to give honor to your wife, right? If listen, if you don't make your wife shine, because you ain't shining, right? You just have to give her that honor, man. I have no other way to really put it. Anything else you got, Ak, in closing?
I mean, it just makes sense. Like, at the end of the day, we're built, right? We're a nation because of marriage, right? Um, you know, building a family. That's why there's, we read in the Bible. If you want to be a bishop, you want to be a deacon, right? You got to be a man that, you know, has a family, right? Why? Because again, this is where you're learning to lead, learning to be the proper man. Is when you realize there's people in your care that you have to serve, right? So that's just what it is. At the end of the day, you got to think about it. We want to be a nation without being family, right? You know, and again, the only way to build the proper nation, the only way to manifest the kingdom of heaven, right, is by being good men, being good husbands, right? That's the only way. So at the end of the day, that got to be your focus more than you brothers. That got to be your focus more than your wife. What about her? Right? Get that out your mindset.
The whataboutisms. Niggas love whataboutisms.
Like, get that out your mind. Right? Just get that out your mind. You do what you're supposed to do, and us men just start thinking like that. The sooner this thing going, it's going to jump off. Right? It's going to manifest.
All praises. All right, family. But with that, I want to give all praises, all glory, all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawah. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yasharahla, who the world annually calls Jesus Christ. So next time, Shalawam and Matawathya.
Shalawam, shalawam.